Network.
You wanted the best. You got the best. The hottest
Spins Vinyl, the vinyl leader.
What is shaking, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back. Good to see you. We are back here on a Friday. Wow, we are capping off the second week of the live stream, baby. They said it couldn't be done. We got there. I'll start taking a victory lap when I get through like the first month. I think the first month, and then we can take a victory lap for getting this done, man. Just being here on the daily. So thanks for joining. Appreciate you. Today, you guys know what it is. We're going to talk about graded records. I've talked about it a few different times. I've talked about it probably, I think I've done a little series of like 4 videos where I talked about grading and encapsulating vinyl, going back to about a year and a half ago, the first time I heard about it. And they are some of the highest viewed videos on my channel with lots of comments. So people definitely have opinions about this stuff. And so I want to get into it again. Part of the reason, and while we're kind of waiting for people to trickle in, let me just, I want to show you, this is the schedule, guys, by the way, the new Spins Vinyl show going live daily. Which, by the way, I know it says Blue No Fridays, but we're not talking jazz today, even though we are going to take you right into the jazz bums. So, but I got a comment on one of my older videos, one of the 4 videos that I said I did in the series, and it was really interesting, and it got me thinking about this again. And so I thought, let's get into it. Let's talk about it again. Let's go there again. It occasionally comes up, right? We talk about graded and encapsulated records, whether it's on surface noise or something like that, you know. And so yeah, I just wanted to get into it again, and why people are trickling in, like I said. Really, again, and I'll say it again because I know people are just joining, is I've taken some interest in this over like the last year and a half, to the extent that I've made, say, really a 4 video series on the topic of grading and encapsulating vinyl. And I have mixed feelings. Today, I don't really want to get into my opinion. Music in the house, what's up, baby? I just want to kind of share my thoughts and just kind of go into what I think could happen with grading and encapsulating vinyl, whether I think there's a future or whether there's not a future, what would need to happen if this was a future, what would the impact be if it is the future, all that stuff. So let's get into that. Just to kind of grease the skids a little bit, I want to share just some of the thoughts that I've gotten from people with some of the TS. What's up, baby? Shout out TS. With some of the past videos I've done, I want to just kind of read a little bit out of some of the comments section, because I think it'll give you some idea of kind of, you know, where people are at on this topic. And I think we can use common sense. I think we know, but let me just share some thoughts. So we got, doesn't surprise me, but it is patently ridiculous to encapsulate something that is meant to be heard, never to be heard again. That's soulless. Someone else says, I understand not slabbing all your records, but I recently sent a couple test presses that I don't even want to look at wrong. Those, plus I'm thinking about sending in some records that I've had signed by the artist. Okay. Mad Vinyl NYC. What's up, baby? Another person said, I get it with rare records, you know, grading and encapsulating rare records. I don't care one way or the other, actually. I've collected about 6,000. Oh, sorry, guys. Come back. There we go. No harm done. I've graded and encapsulated about 6,000 records when they were cheap. I have more than enough to enjoy for the rest of my lifetime. Don't we all wish we were there? And it just kind of goes on from there. Records are made to be heard, not seen. This is extremely disappointing and insane. Some people get it. You know, they're fine with it under certain conditions. Some people don't. Some people are scared at what it might look like if this happens. Music in the house, with cards, you can always look at the encapsulated slabbed version. Music, I agree. It's the music. Maybe you have 2 copies, though. Good point. I've had the discussion where, and the point you're making, with cards, I think it's clear. They're two-dimensional. There's a front, there's a back. You slab it, you can still experience the whole thing, right? However, almost every other graded commodity, I would say you can't. Like a comic book, for example, you can look at the cover art, you can look at the advertisement on the back, but like all the interior art and the story is encapsulated, right? Toys are meant to be played with, and yet, you know, who's lugging around a piece of plastic, you know, with their Han Solo when those get graded. Video games are meant to be played, and yet they get graded. And so, again, interesting kind of topic here. Prices of records are outrageous, says Mad Vinyl. I didn't start buying to collect something like baseball cards. This puts me off. 25% of my want list overpriced. Yes. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it, Mad Vinyl. All great points, and keep them coming. I just kind of let's start out just by how did we get here, I guess. And we'll kind of start to unravel the story a little bit. Again, I already talked about it. Comic books, trading cards, those are the big ones. Toys, video games, stuff like that. In fact, I do want to read you. So, okay, a little story before we kick off. Like I said, I've made some videos on this topic before, and one of the examples I used in the very first video I did was a Purple Rain record that had been graded and slabbed, graded and encapsulated. And I showed it, and I a screenshot of it, and it was off of eBay, and I was just using it as part of my, you know, story to tell about graded records. What's funny is a couple days ago, a year and a half later, I get a comment on that video. And here's what it says. I was the seller of that Purple Rain on eBay that you mentioned. In any case, VHS, video games, pulp magazines have all officially failed at this point in terms of grading. I've been selling records at my store and on eBay, played and sealed copies for a couple of years now, and talking to my customers who are mainly record collectors. There is a lot of resistance around grading records. Even the idea of grading a sealed sample is frowned upon. So therefore, if that's a fair representation of the record collector community, then graded records will not be going very far. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show what a pulp magazine is for people that don't know. Obviously, everyone knows what a comic is. You've seen these things graded and slabbed and all that stuff, and they're trading for big bucks on the open market. And now they started getting into grading this. So here's a comic book. Here's a pulp magazine. This is basically filled with words. These are just short stories. But since we're encapsulating this, and the only thing you're ever going to see is that cover, pulp magazines have really great covers on them. So they're grading those too now. They've only just started. So are VHS video games and pulp magazines failed? Possibly. Have we had enough runway to know for sure? That's part of what I want to get into. So 1991 PSA starts, and that they started grading sports cards, mostly trading cards. And it took a while. People were resistant even then. And a time finally came along after whatever magic, you know, enough of these things got going. Maybe they were flipping for large numbers on eBay. Maybe they got some press, you know, maybe they were showing up on television and stuff like this, or in some of these shows, and people started, all of a sudden the floodgates opened up and sports cards became a massive, grading sports card became a massive, not just collector, but investor economy. 2000 rolls around, CGC pops up, and they start doing comic books. Same thing. It took a long time. People weren't buying in initially. They were very resistant. It probably took 10 years for people to start trusting that. And again, when you see these YouTube channels and they're flipping these comic books for 10x what they are when they're just not graded, you're going to have a lot of people going, man, really? I never even look at this thing. I could just mail it in and get it graded and make 10 times my money on it. So here we are in 2025. Grading records has been a thing, I think, less than 2 years. I mean, really, when I first started hearing about it, maybe somebody was doing them before that. We've already started to see these things selling on eBay, very slowly, I think, on eBay, but you see these on heritage auctions a lot. And part of the series I did was following a set of vinyl that was sold on heritage auctions and on eBay, and consistently people were 10xing their money. And I did a little, I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of background, but I went to Discogs, I went to eBay, I would see what mint copies would go for, or even sealed copies, and then compare it, the last sale, for example, compare it to the last graded encapsulated sale, and almost without fail, people were 10xing their money. And so it's like, anybody that cares about money has to at least pause and say, wow, that's interesting. What's up, Eric Wong? So the main point I'm trying to make initially is that it took some time for both of those economies to kind of get any kind of toehold, right? Obviously, it took patience from CGC and PSA. They had to have enough runway to be able to keep going. At any point, maybe, it could have been the case that they just ran out of money or resources and they just couldn't, it was a failed business and they just gave up, and we would never have what we have today. So the question is, what kind of legs does the vinyl grading community have, or the vinyl grading companies have? Do they have the kind of legs that can be patient and wait 10 years for these things, for people to start seeing dividends and saying like, okay, I really don't need this third pressing of Dark Side of the Moon. If I can get $1,000 out of it, like, let's just do it, yeah, Eric Wong, graded records is not for me. What's the point? And a lot of collectors will agree with you, including myself, even though I'm promising not to be biased in this video. But from a investment standpoint, and I don't know, some of us would even look, if we're just collectors, I think we still look at the value of what we have. Like if you said I have $20,000 worth of, if you said you have $20,000 worth of records that you're going to leave to someone, right? Eventually, your kids, like what's going to happen to all that stuff one day? Is it going to help fund someone's retirement? Is it going to, you know what I mean? And so if you said, well, I have $20,000 worth of records that I could turn into $100,000 worth of records. And yes, I'm just trying to make a point. This isn't me trying to like sway anybody, but I think it bears at least thinking about in terms of, if this thing starts to take off. So the other thing that was massive when it came to sort of where we are today with graded comics and graded cards, at least, was the pandemic. The pandemic happened, beginning of 2020 comes, and suddenly these collectibles begin to really spike. And I wanted to show you guys some graphs and stuff, but every time I went to a website that would allow me to show graphs, I had to pay for it. So it's like, I'm not paying for it just for one video. But believe me, when you start looking at like first appearances of Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, it was just like, boom. It was crazy. And people got crazy, and people started grading everything because they wanted a piece of that. And we're on the sort of the back end of that. That kind of created a massive bubble in the comic book community, even in the card community, the Pokemon community, which are now kind of starting to level out. But I think I guess one of the variables that I'm asking myself is that was allowed to happen because at least they had enough runway leading into that people trusted it, people believed in it. There was enough data to show that, okay, it's worth doing this. Let's jump on this bandwagon. And vinyl wasn't a thing yet. So if you say, well, it takes something as severe to happen to the economy, like a pandemic, and not just the economy, but like isolating people in their homes, vinyl took off at the beginning of the pandemic again. Like, it's probably 10x sales in records since 2020, which is starting to kind of level out too. So, but the point I want to make here is that since the vinyl grading kind of came in after all that happened, how much runway would they need to actually have people buy into it? And will they ever buy into it? Because is vinyl the same kind of commodity as a comic book, a trading card, etc.? Here's my thoughts on that. Comic books are bolstered by the Marvel universe, the DC universe. We see movies, Disney Plus, new television shows coming out all the time. Kids are sleeping in their Incredible Hulk pajamas. They go and they buy. Go to any Target. What you're going to see is go to the toy department. You're just going to see the 80s all over again. It's Ninja Turtles. It's Star Wars. It's Batman. It's all that stuff. So my point is that, like, for the young people coming up in comics, I just feel like that has a long life, ahead of it. If they keep making movies, if they keep making shows, they keep making toys, like there's going to be all of this incentive for kids to buy comic books and to collect comic books and to keep that community really rolling. Sports cards. What's different between sports cards and records? I mean, there's something to talk about in sports every single day. You just turn on ESPN, there's some new game. It's baseball season, it's football season, it's basketball season, rinse and repeat every single year. And the kids are going to follow that stuff, and if those sports, NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball, need to maybe do a better job moving forward of hyping up their stars and all that stuff. But as long as they do, cards are going to be popular. Music, a Van Halen 1984 pressing, for example, or even a Led Zeppelin pressing or a Kiss pressing and stuff, it's not in the zeitgeist in the same way. There's not a bunch of shows on TV every single day to watch that stuff. There's not, all the toys aren't in the toy store when you go there, and stuff like that. So I think it can be an uphill battle for that reason, is that it's going to age out potentially before grading can really take off. I hate to say it. Read a few more comments. I'm not a sealed record collector, but I could see someone grading those since they are not being played anyway. Yep. That's a great point. Is life about putting sound in hard plastic and on a shelf for money? Dang. Well, I'm not in it for the money, but what can you say? It's something to consider. Music in the house. Absolutely. Again, I'm trying to speak for both sides and I'm trying not to be biased, but I just feel like, what's the first thing to go if you have a hardship? It's good. The vinyl collection might be one of those things to say, man, do I really need this? Like we need to make mortgage. Someone needs this, insure, whatever. There's a million reasons. I'd like to get the kids in the good college, my retirement, all that stuff. You have $20,000 worth of records or $100,000 worth of records. You know what I mean? It's like, who wouldn't? That's just a practical consideration, I think, under those circumstances. Grading a sealed record is tough. It could be damaged. Yeah. Sell today, sell every day. Take your profits now, says Ricefield. So yeah, and I know there's people, it's funny because, you guys know Jason Rojas. I'm on Surface Noise with him every other week. And he jokingly talks about like, hey, let the community, let records tank so I can grab all these records for, all these OGs for $1 a piece or whatever and stuff. And it's like, I think if we all had our druthers, we would realize that that's not the healthiest, way to go out. Hopefully we can sustain vinyl in a healthy way and kind of keep it going as long as it needs to, who knows? My kids are never going to collect records. But I know I have friends whose kids will, some won't. So, a whole nother debate to have. Let's see. So I think, again, the comment about VHS video games and pulp magazines kind of dying out. It's a timing thing. Again, when the pandemic happened, it was like comics and cards, man, just spiked to the 10th degree. Vinyl didn't get there first. Grading vinyl didn't get there before that. So again, and I kind of talked about it, is how many of us wouldn't love to have a career? Let's say you love vinyl, like I'm assuming everyone here does, and you had an opportunity to open a record store. You might, if I could open a record store, that would be a great way to retire. Own a record store, talk records all day long, look at records. People bring me stuff and I get to sell it to people and have that conversation. I mean, that could be a really fun thing to do, have a career. And when it came to comics and cards, it's easy to look at it if you say, well, man, this is just about investing, dude. It's not even collecting anymore. These people don't even care about comics and cards. They're just out there for the buck. They grade this stuff, they 10x their money, and they're out and they're on to the next thing. And I'm not denying that, but and there's a lot of people that I think loved comics and cards, young people that an opportunity came up for them to make a career. And I follow some of them on YouTube, and they're out there and now they grade comics or cards and they make their money that way. And that's just how they make their living, and more power to them, in my opinion. I know it's a touchy subject for people. It's polarizing because you start saying, well, yeah, but isn't that just feeding into, this monster and all this stuff? I mean, that's why it's so tough, right? That's why it's so tough to kind of have these discussions, but we can't shy away from it, right? We just gotta talk about this stuff. I think, when it comes to records, I said it before, a strong economy is a good economy. I think I'm not wishing for those days to come back, $2 records. Yeah, of course, it would be great to be able to go to the thrift store again and pick up 50 records, for $100, or, just to be able to find this stuff super affordably. I do think it's going to come down to some degree. I don't think it will continue the way that it is, especially on a long enough timeline. There's just not going to be as much interest in it. But do I want it to tank? No, I don't want it to tank. I think a strong economy is good. And when you compare it to other categories like comic books and like cards, again, I would make this argument, for better or worse, that the economy was bolstered by grading. Again, I don't want to, I'm not taking a side here, but it's just facts. More people got interested, and then you could start printing more comic books and cards, more access for people and stuff like that. Now, of course, it took a first appearance of Spider-Man or Superman or Batman and made it out of reach for most people, but it was kind of out of reach anyway, probably, right? If we were all going to buy the first appearance of Batman, we should have did it 30 years ago. Like, those days are gone. But I think, there's a lot more access now for people in terms of, you could say, like with records, it's reissues. We're not going to get all those reissues. Jazz would be almost a thing of the past if we weren't getting all these reissues from Blue Note and from OJC and all the other ones that I can't think of right now. But so that's good. That's good. It's good that the economy is strong enough to where, we can have access to these jazz records, which would have been tough, man. They would have all been gobbled up. We'd all be paying $300 for a copy of Out to Lunch, when now we can get a classic series for $30. So I don't wish ill will on the vinyl economy at all. So in terms of whether vinyl can get there or whatnot, this isn't whether it should get there, but whether it even can get there. I think there's an uphill battle. And I think I said it before, I think age demographics is going to be a problem, because it's a matter of timing and speed. How fast can you get people ramped up? Comic books and cards, I would say it took a good decade to really get people buying into sports cards and comic grading and encapsulating. And I think they were poised way better than vinyl to be successful, for the reasons I stated. I just think it's a generational thing. I think everybody, the adults that grew up with comic books back in the 60s, all the way down to the kids that are collecting comic books now, the media hasn't changed, right? Except now there's digital comics or whatever. But with music, I mean, we got cassette tapes, we got CDs that took people out of vinyl for a decade or two. We stream music now. Most people are streaming their music. So there's just so many other options. And again, for the same reasons, you can't just go to your local Target and buy, maybe they have Taylor Swift toys. I don't know. I haven't looked, but there's no Led Zeppelin dolls or Kiss dolls anymore or anything like that. So a problem, right? For the younger generation and stuff. Let's see. So yeah, I think timing is a big part, and it might be too late. If I'm just being honest, these are just my thoughts. Um, if if grading vinyl had come around 2000, 2010, maybe, because maybe then the pandemic, people would have been already thinking about it, and then they would have been looking around for ways to kind of like 10x their money, and they would have said, okay, screw it. Uh, Dark Side of the Moon's going to the grading company, but and more people were home and more people were collecting, and there would be more people to sell these records to and stuff. So is my boy right? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's failed at this point in the same way that he's saying VHS video games and pulp magazines have. It's possible. It's possible that it's, and I know, and again, this isn't, and I'm not trying to naysay my friends in the vinyl community and people that are grading records and want to make a thing of it, make a go of it, because there's a part of me that sees the benefit, even for collectors, right? Like, you have a rare sealed record that you don't even want to look at wrong, and you're going to move, and you just know you're going to ding something on it, and it's just, at that point it's kind of a piece of history. You're just trying to kind of preserve something. And maybe it's a signed record that you have that, the signatures are starting to fade or something, and you're like, I just want to keep this nice. Maybe it's just a rare record or a bootleg. So I think, there could be reasons. There could be reasons for encapsulation in terms of preservation. The other reason to do it is investing, right? And so, and I'm saying that's the flip side. I'm not saying that I'm making an argument for doing that. I'm just saying that would be the only other reason I could think of to do it. And I don't know if vinyl is there. I don't know if vinyl has the bandwidth to get there. And of course, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to take a lot of work. I think a lot of patience, a lot of buy-in. There's probably more resistance in the vinyl community than there was, I would say. Well, but that's the thing that we have to remember too, is that, like, as much resistance as we feel now, people were saying the same thing about comic books 25 years ago. No one wanted to see a comic book graded and encapsulated. There was a ton of resistance, and eventually we got there. And there is still resistance from people. So it's not saying that, even though I think it's way more mainstream, I'm not saying that everyone has bought into the idea of grading sports cards, Pokemon cards, comic books, whatever. But people will try anything, right? And if VHS and video games and pulp magazines have played themselves out and it just didn't become a thing, people are going to keep trying, right? They're going to keep trying to grade stuff and make, anything that's interesting to people as a collectible. They want to, seal it and see if they can make something out of it, make some money from it. The only point I'm trying to make is that has the repercussions of that, or the result of that, is good and bad. Whether the intent of it you might feel is bad. Sometimes the outcome can be mixed, right? So that's what I think about that. Ricefield also says, this because the boomers have the money and the memories now, the hunger and the means won't be the same in 15 years. Who is spending big bucks on Frank Sinatra and Mel Torme records? Yeah, I know, man. I keep trying to push Count Basie, even Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker, which, if you had a conversation with someone 20 years ago, those names would be top of mind. People still remembered those guys and listened to their music and loved it and would speak highly of those guys. And now, and I'm speaking for jazz, now it's the Coltrane's, the Sonny Rollins, the Miles Davis and stuff. And those have always been big names. But what about in another 15, 20 years? Are those going to still be the names? And are those guys going to be forgotten? You never know, man. You can sell stocks in a second. You can't sell records. Yeah. I mean, it would take a monumental event. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that with comics, and it's almost a perfect storm. With comics and trading cards, you almost have to believe that there was a conversation behind closed doors, like, okay, look, We know in the 90s comic books, there was a massive crash, right? Because they were just printing too much of it. They thought, oh man, look at the comics. Everyone loves comics. They just got so big. And all these different companies started popping up everywhere. So they said, all right, let's print 5 million of these suckers, right? They'll be collectible one day and everything. Well, the problem is you can't print 5 million of anything and have it be collectible, right? It's like the limited edition stuff is the stuff. So comics was in a bad way after that. There was just flooded the market. There was too much of it. You could make that argument for vinyl now, maybe. Some people have. So you could imagine a scenario where the grading companies that came out in 2000, right? The 90s were a dead era really for comics in terms of value because there was just too much of it. 2000 CGC was, I think, is the one that came along, right? And so I'm not suggesting this happened. This isn't me accusing anything, but you can imagine a scenario where potentially behind closed doors, some agreement was made like, look, we need to start grading these things. We need to comic books, you know, and of course they started making movies and stuff. So who knows? But in the vinyl community, man, you almost imagine like, so for example, let's say record store day, 1,000 copies of a Taylor Swift record graded 9.8. Show up at the record store, right? Spread across the country, limited edition, limited to 1,000. Maybe they're signed and they're graded. That could move the needle a little bit, right? Get these things in people's hands at least. Another thing that like what sports cards does is they do limited edition signed cards. They also do like game worn jerseys, game used bats, and they just take a sliver off of it and they, you know, put it on the card. And the next thing you know, it's raises the price X number. What if they had a Kiss release that had like tour worn, you know, whatever, a boot, Gene Simmons boot gets shaved up into little slivers and you could own part of Gene Simmons boot, or you could own Britney Spears undergarment, you know, whatever. Suddenly it's like, and again, I know I sounds like I'm shilling and I'm trying to give the people at the powers that be ideas. But all I'm trying to do is just compare it to what kind of, it took that level of effort, I think, to really make it a thing. Do the powers that be in the vinyl community have that? Do they want to do that? The other question you could ask yourself, and I think Ricefield makes a point, is that like aging out, the point I was making earlier, is that like, how do you make these things relevant? Vinyl records relevant in another 10, 15 years? Well, they have started doing, and people will have their thoughts about this, limited edition colored vinyl, for example. Get the pink, get the yellow, get the blue, get the swirl, get the starburst, whatever. And people buy them. Now, it might not be for the diehard old school collector or whatever, but that's very akin to what's happened in comics and in cards, where they've tried to make this effort to make things, A, you make it a series, so people feel like they have to buy them all. B, you know, you add some value by making it different or whatever. Maybe vinyl is catching on in that way. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. That's up for you guys to decide. But I mean, that's a way to get more people interested in it, especially young people, as we kind of move, as people start aging out. You know, like I said, my records aren't going to my kids. You guys maybe start lining up and start wishing ill will on me. Don't do that. But you know, if I go, hey man, we used to say this as kids. Hey man, can I have your Star Wars figures when you die? You know, hey man, can I have your Mario Brothers when you die? It's like, oh yeah, man, you can. And we were like 10 years old, you know. It's like, that's a long promise to keep. I hope nobody holds me to that. One of my childhood friends is going to hit me up on my deathbed and be, yeah, dude, remember those He-Man figures that you promised me? Where are they? Anyway, what point was I making there? I don't know. So I spoke way too fast, and now I have 25 minutes to kill. I might as well show you this for those that are curious, and maybe you already know this. I am in possession of a graded record. I actually sent this in. I was curious. You know, I want to know what the process is. And here is a Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. This is the band cover. edition right there in all its glory, encapsulated now, potentially for all time, between two extremely sturdy pieces of plastic. That's what the label looks like. It is sealed, hype stickers there. And that's what we're dealing with, right? So I did this for a friend of mine, and I don't know what to do with it at this point. I'm supposed to sell it. We'll see for them. But anyway, so that was a good experience, though. I got to just kind of go through the whole experience of in fact, there's an unboxing video on my channel. That doesn't mean I'm buying in or I'm not buying in. It's just a fact. Let's see some of these other comments from some of the original videos I did. It's inevitable considering how disconnected new vinyl record collectors are to the hobby. This is not a dig at the newer generation getting into the hobby, but more a comment on how the newer record buying public see vinyl records. Given that more and more of the record buying public are going to have grown up with streaming music as the default way of consuming music, the more records will be seen as objects of alternative music and or fan art, et cetera, et cetera. And we already know that's the case because we already know, according to certain reports, whether they're true or not, that half of the vinyl buying public doesn't own a turntable. So the vinyl goes right up on the wall, right? Because it looks cool. So we know, and again, it's hard to hate on that, because even though that's not for me, but it's hard to hate on that because it is bolstering the economy, right? The vinyl economy. Sell more records. I just think it's good for everybody. Someone else says, doesn't surprise me. Capitalism at its finest. What else? What's going to happen with shellac? Someone asked. That's right. I actually reached out to them. They're not doing shellac yet. So you're going to have to wait on your 78s. But that would be another use case that I think would be appealing to people, because those things are so dang delicate. Protecting them and who's playing those, right? So a lot of people that are into that, and I know some people that are just into 78s. And just because it's, whatever, it's historical, they're trying to save these things from, the garbage bin or whatever. Do they grade singles? Someone asked. I think they are grading 7-inch actually. I don't support this way of collecting. I'm never going to own a vinyl inside 2 slabs. That can never be played, but everyone for themselves. And that's my way of thinking too, everyone for themselves. And it's like, so I guess, one of the final thoughts is like, what happens if this does happen? You don't want it to happen. Whether you want it to or not, it could be coming. I could be wrong. Maybe there is enough interest in grading vinyl. Maybe enough people buy into this. I already know a lot of people that are grading certain records in their collection and stuff like that. That's could just continue to get legs. It might be a very slow thing, just like it was in comics and cards. So what's the worst case scenario? Is there ever going to be a day where you can't access a Dark Side of the Moon, or you just can't get a Sgt. Pepper's anymore? I don't see that happening, because first of all, I don't see vinyl records ever being as ubiquitous as sports cards and comic books, and you can still find those ungraded even now, even after 25, 35 years of grading, and even after the pandemic. That stuff's still out there. Is it pricier? Yes, it's pricier. There's way more interest in that stuff, though. It's a supply and demand thing. Will vinyl get to the point where, like, thousands of Dark Sides of the Moons are getting graded and we can't get an OG anymore? I mean, I just don't know, man. So I don't know. In fact, there's a comment here which is going to speak for me. I'm not sure I see this having a huge effect. I know a couple guys in different states that own stores, and of course they've gotten amazing rare pieces in. They follow one rule: they don't sell online. That's interesting. They just save it. They sell it to local. You got to be local to get the records. But they must say it's important to keep your grails in the area because they find their way back to you. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it will really impact us. I mean, we could have opinions about it. You know, you might see more and more people coming on YouTube saying like, "Hey guys, here's my latest graded record or whatever for sale now." Or they might show you a whole collection, or you might look behind the wall and see them. You might be at WFMU in a couple years and see a ton of graded records and stuff. I just don't know in our lifetime if it's going to matter all that much. And beyond that, I just don't know if enough people are going to care. So it just seems it just seems kind of late to me. It seems kind of late to me. If again, if grading companies had got started earlier, 10, 15, 20 years earlier, then yeah, I think we'd be in a different place right now. But I don't know, man. Seems a little late to me. Do want to remind people that I'm going live daily at 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 6 p.m. on Friday. And this is the end of the second week, even though I'm still going. Also want to remind people that we're going to take you right into the jazz bump. So if you're a jazz bummer and you want to get in there into the show, you don't want to miss it. Don't worry. You don't got to keep looking at your watch. We're going to take you in there at the top of the hour in about 18 minutes. So through the magic of YouTube, just like we did last week, we're going to get you directly into the show. Let's see what else. What's funny, somebody made a comment. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. So someone made a comment about this. Just sounds like tulip mania to me all over again. Tulip fever. I'm like, what the hell is tulip mania? So of course I went and looked it up. In the 1600s, there was a speculative bubble on tulips. Tulip is a flower, right? I mean, as far as I know, it comes back every year. They sell them in bulbs and stuff. Whatever reason, they made an argument for why everyone should go out and spend crazy amounts of money on tulips. It lasted about 3 years before it crashed. So it's the first recorded instance of a speculative bubble and a crash and just people spending crazy sums of money. Don't ask me how my boy knew anything about that. Stop trying to flex with the tulip mania. That just sounds like I don't know. They probably maybe they're still in college or school and they just that was the topic of the day and it was just perfect timing. Grading is a scam. The only people getting rich off it are the graders. Don't waste your money. Just don't do it. Records need to be played and enjoyed. Grading isn't even consistent at these companies. Sure, maybe grade a butcher cover, but that's the thing. It's like even then, it's like it's a scam. Don't waste your money. Well, I mean, if it's a butcher cover, so I think everybody kind of has their line, right? Where it's kind of like, is there a scenario though? So to slab a record music in the house, it varies. It depends on the perceived value of the record. I think to grade this one, it ended up costing me like $70 or something like that. You know, you buy insurance, 50 to 70, something like that. Just kind of depends. So yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to just grade anything. I mean, it's got to be something that has value. And so yeah, so that there is that cost to it. And who knows, maybe that goes up. I know the comic book companies had to really raise their prices because they just had more people sending comics to be graded than they could even grade. It was taking them a year or more to get people's comic books back to them because people were just in a frenzy. It was like Black Friday for comics, man. It was like people were just like, oh, everybody was grading everything. And what happens? Same thing that happened in the 90s is then you oversaturate the market where once there was only, 100 of a graded record. Now there's 10,000 of them. And so it's like, it's just what happens. It's just what happens. But yeah, I think around 50 to $70 depends. I mean, if you had something crazy, I think they're going to charge you more than that. I think this Appetite for Destruction sealed probably goes for around $400 or something like that. So I think it was worth it to them to have it graded. Yeah, in fact, it's so funny you asked me that. So I was just on a comment that asked the same question. Someone, people start getting into like the conspiracy part of it also, right? They want to know. I would not be surprised to discover that those records were put up and bought back by Heritage themselves. Who does that happen? Just to show that slab vinyl is a viable investment that can generate money. I mean, I don't know. I guess that could happen. So saying that Heritage went and graded a bunch of records and just sold them to themselves, I guess. Yeah, sold them to themselves just to be like, just to get on the census, right? Just to say like this record went for $10,000. Man, that would be shady. That would be shady. You can, and talking about the Beatles album that I showed in that video, you can buy a copy of that Beatles album, have it slabbed yourself at the same company, and it would still cost you a fifth of what that went for in the auction. Yeah, if I'm being honest, this stuff went for crazy amounts on Heritage. If you're interested, you can see it. I have a series of videos. There's a you can find those. There's like 4 of them. This is something that vinyl collecting does not need. And and I kind of started the top of the hour talking about, what are we losing by grading a record? Well, we're losing what the purpose of the record, the sound. It's meant to be listened to. That's the media is encapsulated within that record cover. Now put that within plastic, and now you can't get at it. Someone made the point that a card, a 2-dimensional sports card or Pokemon card, is a whole different thing, right? Because you can see both sides of it. You're not losing anything. I would make the argument that comic books you lose a lot. You got the front cover, you got the advertisement on the back, but everything else you're missing, right? The story, you're not going to read the story anymore. You're not going to look at the interior art. And the first person that says, well, but you can find that on the internet, you can go get a digital copy. Aha! Same thing with music, right? Grading an appetite for destruction, it's like you could go buy one, even a first pressing, for a reasonable amount of money and have it in great condition and listen to it and enjoy it for the rest of your life. But a sealed one, is it wise to crack that thing open and listen to it? I don't know. Soul Disco. I don't think slabbing will be the next thing. Thanks for the stream. Soul Disco. I actually made that same argument, dude. I just don't think it has, I just think it's too late. And that's, again, I don't want to come off biased either way. Like, I'm not saying I want this to be a thing. I'm not saying I would hate life if it was a thing. It's more just, where are we? Where do we have to look historically to kind of gauge where this might go? And where might it go given all of the different variables? And I just think that a couple of variables are, when do you get to market with grading? And how do you maintain interest like you can for comic books and sport cards? I just think it's an uphill battle. Soul Disco, I feel you, man. Couple more comments. I was interested in grading with, I won't say the name of the company, but mainly because I like the idea of them sending you the FLAC copies of the record. Yeah, I should have got into that. For an extra fee, you can have like a DSD copy of your vinyl on digital. So you'd have a file of it, a high resolution file of it. They will also grade. Here's an interesting thing. I'm glad I thought about this while we have like 11 minutes left, is that it's not just about slabbing. You can send your record in to a grading and slabbing company. They will grade the music for you. Now, whether you agree with, that their interpretation of the grade of the music is, I don't think it's going to be any better or worse than anyone else. Go buy a record on Discogs. It's a 50-50 chance whether you're going to get a record that is the grade it was promised. But they will grade the music for you and not encapsulate it. The use case I see for that is, let's say you have a really pricey record. Let's say you're trying to sell a $5,000 record, and you're calling it a VG Plus. And people are like, how do I know it's a VG Plus? Well, you can have the audio graded. And then that, in a way, if we trust that, and if that gets enough legs, I could see that being a way to kind of create trust between the seller and the buyer, that what the buyer's getting is what they're actually paid for, and what they're paying for, and what they're being promised. I actually am not mad at that. What they do in that case is they put it in like they seal it, but not in hard plastic. They just put it in like a sleeve, and then I think they put a stamp on it or something that you can't open it without tearing it off. But you don't pay for the slabbing, and it's not, I don't know, it's not encrusted within the hard plastic. Soul Disco says, the problem is, how do I know what version of the record I have, as it's not written on the slab? It is on the slab. They put on here the I don't know if it's the matrix, but they do put like catalog numbers. Like this one says, if you look at it here, Geffen, sorry, get that so you can see it. Here we go. Geffen, Uzi Suicide, XXSG, and then catalog 24148, GHS 24, US uncensored, Deadpool hype sticker. So, and then they also, if that's not everything, again, I don't know, maybe there's more to the matrix than that, to your point. I'm pretty sure they catalog on their in their database. So yeah, it can be. Well, here's the thing, this is sealed, right? So certain assumptions to be made with a sealed record. If it's not a sealed record, then yes, they can, obviously they know the matrix and all that stuff. But yeah, that's a great point, man, especially when comic books, and people have raised this problem, is that comic books have had a problem with that. People cracking slabs and then slipping something else in there. And, and so over the years, these grading companies have had to take precautions against that. And I will say that the company that graded this, the reason I even sent it to them was because they said, yeah, we've kind of considered a lot of that stuff. And so this is not going to be a slab that's going to be easy to get into without it being obvious that it was broken into. So, again, not making an argument for or against, but if you are someone that's going to grade, hopefully that provides a little more confidence. But I actually do like the whole grading the audio thing. And another thing you can do is, well, and I mentioned this, but you can have a flat copy, well, whatever digital high resolution copy set. So let's say you get, you slab, you feel like, okay, I need the money. I got to get this Appetite for Destruction slabbed and sell it just because I can get, I can double my money. Have the digital file created. I know maybe that's not going to be for everybody. If I'm being honest, I have a turntable right there. That's the only way I listen to music. So I'm not making an argument for digital, but I'm just saying, at least you have that. At least you have that. If you're worried about, oh, I'm going to lose out on the music that I love so much. This record sounds so good. Well, they can copy it, flaws and all. You have the same ticks and pops that you had when you listened to the Wax. So that's interesting, and so there's other stuff too, other kind of services that they will offer. Gold Rush, said someone. We'll see. It's kind of become a joke among me and friends. Like, it's like anytime certain records get shown, it's like, slab it, baby. So who knows, man? Who knows what the future holds? If I'm being as honest as I can with all the information that we have, and I've made, this is my 5th time talking about this. Like I said, I did a series of 4 videos. I've had a record graded. I've talked to people that have graded or interested in grade. So, I mean, I feel like I've done enough content to at least have some kind of intelligent, I can speak about this somewhat intelligently. I just don't know if the vinyl economy has the legs to support grading in the same way that sports cards and comic books did and do. It's going to be an uphill battle. I think it's going to take a collaboration between the powers that be that want to continue selling wax to kids going into the future, figuring out how to get grading into the mix somehow. Like I said, maybe they do a record store day release where they do 1,000 Taylor Swifts all graded, signed, make it interesting for people. Maybe it has a custom label on it. I don't know. I'm not trying to give people ideas. I'm just trying to have an honest discussion around how could this even possibly happen? Up here in Europe, they tried to sell them on the largest record fair on the planet. It did not work. Also, grading is very special. I'm very picky, while others say, oh, this is near mint. And I say, no, this is VG. You're speaking my language, Soul Disco. You're speaking my language, man. It is hard right now, for sure. I think WFMU, I wasn't there last year, but I heard from friends that grading companies had a presence there. They had a table, a booth. They were educating people on it. They had slabbed records, and they were mostly ignored. I just think, again, the resistance is strong with this one. And it's like why my notes say right here, when I summarize it, is it's going to be an uphill battle. And I just believe that it is. Not saying it can't happen, but you got strong resistance in the community. You got a lot of older collectors that have strong opinions about vinyl and are going to be aging out, in the not too distant future. Why would a young person go and slab a record? It would take the same kind of attention that, as I mentioned, came to comics and cards. I think go to a card show, a Pokemon show, or a sports card show, and watch the 12-year-olds running around with a box, a case, like a briefcase with a combination lock on it with tens of thousands of dollars in slabbed cards in it. It's crazy to see. I can't see that happening with records, man. One, they're too big. Here's my graded, slab collection, guys. Want to pick through it. But, I don't know. I don't know what young person is going to do that. I could be way off base, The Japanese sandbag their grading. Every grade is lower than actual. Soul Disco, yes, they do a brilliant job, right? Steel records. Yes. Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion, All right, we're coming down the home stretch, man. I want to appreciate everyone for being here. Again, if you're here for the jazz, or if you are a jazz bum person and you're like checking the time because you want to make sure you click on their channel, don't worry. We're going to take you right there. As soon as the stream ends, the top of the hour, you're going to go right into the jazz bums. So you don't have to even lift a finger. That's the way it's set up. That's why I go live at 6 p.m. Central on Fridays. Heritage auctions suck now that their top items are slabbed. Vinyl Piper says, if we don't want to watch the jazz bums, can you go long? Vinyl Piper, God, man, thank you so much for saying that. I didn't think anyone would ask that question. Yeah, what I had planned today was really this hour of, talking about slabbed records and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm going to take you there to the jazz bumps. Thank you. I'm going to take that as a compliment as opposed to a slight on them. Thank you so much. But Vinyl Piper, you're always welcome. Monday through Friday, I'm here every day. So yeah, hopefully we'll catch up with you on Monday. Next week is also the Surface Noise B-sides. So we'll be here for that also. But thanks for saying that, man. Soul Disco, you're doing a great job. I enjoy your videos very much. Soul Disco, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. And I appreciate you guys being here and doing this live with me. Sometimes, again, I try to have more content than I need sometimes, and it works out just great. And then other times, I'm still getting used to the timing thing, right? Then I finish a conversation in a half an hour, and then what am I going to do for half an hour? But thanks for being here. We'll get that all sorted out. The reason to do it live is so that I can be here with you guys and we can all talk in real time. I love the feedback and the back and forth and all that stuff. That's the reason for me. I know a lot of people have different opinions about live streaming, especially in this community. My thing is, this is a video I would normally have done like a pre-recorded video. I would have done I would have had a whole outline lined up. I would have did my time. I would have edited it and put it up. So it's a whole different thing doing it live, but I don't know. I think it's fun. So I appreciate the positive feedback. Guys, it is that time. Vinyl Piper, I appreciate you, man. And we will see you next Monday for sure. Soul Disco, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys, really? Who wants to see the Jazz Bums? Well, you guys, if you want to go see the Jazz Bums, you can just go see the Jazz Bums, right? I don't know. It started to get a little quiet in here, so I was kind of counting the minutes. But what do you guys, do a poll? All right, good call, good call. I was gonna do a poll anyway. Music in the house. Thank you for being here, man. Always a pleasure to have you here. All right, let's do a poll. We'll do a poll and then we'll wrap up, and we'll call it. Unity OC from Australia. Yes, baby. Good day, mate. How's it going? Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Hopefully vinyl won't follow comic books for grading. That would suck. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to, man. My gut tells me that we don't have anything to worry about, but they were saying that. They were saying that with sports cards. They were saying that with comic books. And it's mainstream now. It's mainstream now. So who knows? It took a long time too. So my argument, OC, is just that, does vinyl itself even have the kind of legs to, when you start talking about where the road, the runway of vinyl and the runway of grading, are they ever going to cross paths in a meaningful way? I don't know. That's a good idea, Soul Disco. Yeah, we do got a lot of people from Europe and stuff that jump in here, and I love it. Or they watch later, and they leave comments and stuff. That would actually be really fun. If you're new here, guys, or I should tell you, I mean, I'm going live daily, so it's 8 p.m. Central Time in the U.S. Monday through Thursday, 6 p.m. Central on Fridays. Fridays, I'm giving it an hour before the Jazz Bombs, but the rest of the time, Mondays, I have my guy Chris, the Group Seeker. We partner up and we do a show on Mondays. Tuesdays is a show called For the Record, which I do interviews and I have guests and stuff like that. So that's really cool because you get to be here live for an interview, and we're going to try to level up, all the different kinds of people that we can get on here and stuff. But that's really cool. We've had Chance from Surface. Concert Buddy, and we've had Felipe with the Jazz Bumps both join me. And next week we have another one. In fact, I should tell you on next Tuesday, it's going to be WCB, Watkin Brown, Jazz Vinyl, who has a great channel and is super smart and knows everything about jazz and has a fantastic collection. He's going to join me Tuesday. Wednesdays is Turntable Tales with my guy Brandon, Mr. Hall of Fame. You might know him. We did a live room tour a couple weeks ago, so that was awesome. And then Thursday is Surface Noise. So a lot of fun stuff, man. If you guys, if you're popping in now for the first time, thank you. I don't feel like this was my best work, so don't judge me by this. But we always bring positivity, high energy, and just fun, to the channel. So I appreciate that. Let me get this poll up. These are very strong options. But pick the one that you agree with more, the closest. All right, here we go. Poll going up, guys. The future of vinyl grading, it's necessary, it's going to kill the community, or you could care less. Soul Disco, thank you. I mean, don't be a stranger. If you know, I'm happy. I'm always looking for, I love partnering up with people, just kind of being, putting the community back in the VC and all that stuff. So yeah, if you know anyone in the European VC that you would recommend, send me their channels, leave a comment, and yeah, we'll see if we can make the connection, man. That'd be fun. That'd be real fun. I know there's a lot of great people out there doing their thing. There we go. So far, folks, get in on this poll. 57% don't care. That's why we're having a slow night. I picked the worst topic on the planet. Final Piper, not necessary. Bring Soul Disco on. There we go, Soul Disco. Okay. I recognize your name, man. Where have I seen you? Where have I seen you before? I'm gonna bring up your channel right now. Oh, did you do you have a podcast? Were you this is me shooting in the dark, but did you do stuff with Chance on the Vinyl Community Podcast by chance? Is that where I saw you? Okay. Her, I'll watch my pronouns. I thought so. Okay, cool. Soul Disco. Let's get it. Let's get it. That would be fun. That'd be fun. There we go. Yeah, I see you. I see you. I recognize you. Okay. Soul Disco, guys. Right on. If you don't know Soul Disco, obviously go subscribe. Well, thanks for being here, Soul Disco, and for the kind words and for chiming in and with your comments and your opinions on this. I love it. And well, yeah, if you're representing the European VC, then you got to put your money where your mouth is. We're gonna have to do something. So now we're okay. 44% could care less. Still leading though. Still leading is 22% say necessary. That's interesting, and I'm not mad at that because in I think there is like a perfect way for grading vinyl to happen if it's gonna happen, if that makes sense. In other words, if you said, look, we got to make the best of things, and sometimes we have to, then we say, okay, what's the best case scenario for graded vinyl? So that's interesting. 22% are saying that it's necessary. 33 are saying the vinyl community goes away if it gets any legs on it, and then 44% could care less. Marcelo, what's up? Nadine is way too cool. All killers, no fillers in her collection. Very nice. Oh, VMG. I didn't even notice that was you. What's up, VMG? Okay, so we run in some of the same circles, Soul Disco. Who knew? Who knew? Fantastic name, by the way. Okay, we're going to close this poll out. Anyone else want to get in that? In case you don't know, we're running a poll. We want to know what you think about the future of grading a vinyl. VMG, I'm sorry to say. Of course, it's still early, but 44% are saying they couldn't care less. I should have said couldn't care less, not could care less. That's one of those common mistakes that we make, right? Oh, you could care less? No, I couldn't care less. All right, we'll end it. We're going to end it. Still, 22% saying that we need it, 33% saying no, and 44%, don't care. So look, it's early. VMG, we talked about it, man. It's like it took a long time I'm not wishing, I'm hoping if you guys, wishing success for you guys, obviously, and hopefully it's sooner than later, and we can figure out a way to make this work for everybody. But man, when you look at like comics and sports cards, like it took a while, right? It took a while. Viner Piper, 22% is necessary. That's like two people here. And one is okay. Okay, Vinyl Piper. By the way, thanks for two. I'm gonna take that as I'm gonna take that as a slight on how many people are here right now. 22% is 2 people. That's probably true. That is absolutely true, Vinyl Piper. That is absolutely true. All right, guys. Well, I only prepped for an hour and I could barely get there today. So I'm gonna let you guys go. You guys are gonna, if you're interested, we should do a poll on that. How many people think that sending people to the Jazz Bum show is necessary? How many people don't care? No, but we're gonna get you over there. I'm joking, but dude, trust me, I'm totally joking, man. I'm totally joking. It's just fun when I see 22%, that's 2 people. That's just me trolling, dude. I'm totally joking. I get it. I get it. I appreciate you being here too, Vinyl Piper. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. Soul Disco, don't be a stranger. Let's figure this out. We gotta get East and West together. Everyone else, thank you so much. Vinyl Piper he's going to drop the mic here with, I feel slabbing is killing the high-end market for playable records, especially heritage auctions. Yeah. We'll see. Is it that bad yet? I mean, I feel like, you know, it could get there. I don't know. Again, it feels very, it's a small sample size for me, even though I follow the auctions. You know, I watch for this stuff on eBay. I watch for it on Heritage. I've done videos on just kind of, I did a delta on how taking a record from buying a near mint on Discogs or eBay, grading it and then selling it. So, but hi, bye, concert buddy. So I don't know. The only kind of subtle remark I would make is that, have we seen a real impact yet with this in terms of it really impacting the high-end market? If so, and maybe you know better than me on that. If so, wow, it could get interesting. It could get interesting. Vinyl Piper like to search by highest price first, and so many of those are slabbed. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Again, don't judge me on this show, please. Again, we're going weekly. Let me just show my. There's the schedule if you guys are interested. I tried to keep it extremely simple. You want to see some live action, talking vinyl, any day of the week, there it is. 8 p.m. every day, 6 p.m. Fridays. That's it. That's the only difference. And we will be back Monday, 8 p.m. for you guys. Again, don't forget, next Tuesday is fun. We do interviews. Chance, concert buddy, in the house. We had a conversation with him this Tuesday. And next Tuesday, we're going to do Chris over at WCB, Watkin Brown. So if you like your jazz, that is going to be essential. Do not miss that. It's going to be super fun. We're going to play a game like we always do. You guys are going to get involved. It's going to be super fun. First week of March is a heritage auction. I haven't looked yet, but I bet lots of unplayable records. Thanks again. Yeah, I hear you, man. I'll have to check that one out. Not as a buyer, but just as a very curious member of the vinyl community. All right, guys, we're going to call it. Thanks for the love. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. I love you all. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday.